Um, Hi, good day. Welcome to 3 Points once again. My name is Oyewale, and today I have the privilege of having a friend join me on today's episode to have a conversation about another important player when it comes to talking about the game of football. Like, so I'm just gonna give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Wale. Thanks for having me. I know we've discussed this a number of times offline, but it's good to be on this podcast now, discussing the topic around the components of soccer, which has to do with being a referee and how to be won, the indices or the variables that play part in it. So I'm happy to be here to talk about this.
Yeah, great.
Maybe to talk about myself, if
Hmm.
this is target. So I think professionally, I'm a business analyst. So again,
Okay.
which still revolves around decision making. So I
Hmm.
live in Hamburg and we've been in Germany for quite a while, some years now. So yeah, this being a part of the refereeing system is both an opportunity to be part of the system and also contribute to the sports that I love. Yeah.
Yeah, great, great. And yeah, even though some people might be wondering, okay, why is he saying why is he calling it soccer? It's football. Yeah, but that's not what we are here for today. And I like the fact that you already mentioned that professionally you're a business analyst. Basically, your responsibility is just making decisions, right? Like telling, let me say, making decision in terms of direction on how things should be, what should be, and what not should be. And my first question will be, that's basically what a referee does in the game, right? During the game, right? And I'm just wondering at this point, is it because you do that professionally and you're trying to find the room for that in football, or you've always just wanted to be a referee? So, what's the motivation? Why do you choose to become a referee?
That plays a part to why I became a referee. And
Okay.
just in case if the occasional drop of soccer comes in, it's football. I think having to work with a lot of American clients has gotten me to speak a lot about soccer, but we stick to football
Ah,
going forward.
I
Yeah.
see.
So,
I see.
uh, okay, so I've been a football fan since I watched Cesc Fabregas dominate the midfield against Real Madrid and Juventus. So I've always been fascinated about young prospects and the confidence playing football and also playing at a very mature level, if you can put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So then I've always loved the game of football. Well, I tried to play, but maybe that wasn't my calling. And in the summer of 2022, I had a footballing uh, accident that it meant
Oh.
I'm no longer able to play the little I know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then I still wanted to be a part of the game, so I started doing a bit of a research on how to continue being part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, that is one component to what drew me to refereeing. The another part of it is I've always been fascinated about making decisions in the moment. Using information available, making dynamic decisions in the moment. I try to do that with boxing, which is again being able to be a chess player on your feet. But I was
Yeah.
informed that I might not, it might not be pretty if I get injured. No, it takes a lot
Yeah.
more physical, being willing to take on some physical injury to do
Mm-hmm.
boxing. So then refereeing became that combination of decision making on the spot decision, football, exercising, just wrapped up into one professional passion.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also an opportunity to connect to the community in Germany, understand how people are developing, how the game of
Mm-hmm.
footballers are actually nurtured from a different point of view, not being from a manager club perspective, but from an umpire, a referee, a middleman perspective. So these are all the components that drew me to refereeing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I mean, I always love asking this question because most times when people look at football, the focus, I'm saying most of the focus is basically on the footballers and the coaches. But it's a complete, or let me say, like, it's a very complex ecosystem with every stakeholder just basically just playing their own part. to actually give you like a good experience, a good 90 minute experience, which is what most of the consumers basically can relate with. And I think I really enjoy your journey when it comes to, okay, you wanted to be in the ecosystem because you love the ecosystem, but you try to be the active player from the footballer perspective. But yeah, unfortunately, uh, for that incident, but it's good that you still find your way into this. And when you were going through that, one of the first thing that pops up in my mind is, okay, if you can no longer play football, if you can no longer do boxing, right? And due to their contact, their physicality, but even as a referee, right, you get to run.
Yes.
And I mean, it depends on your level because I've experienced referees that just like stay in the
No,
middle of the pitch.
no, it's required that as a referee, you need to be as physically fit
Okay.
as the footballers. I
Mm-hmm.
think statistically, a referee covers on an average covers more ground than a player in a football game. Maybe the dynamics with muscle movements.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a word it's called in sports. Um, so the dynamics around movement running is different for the footballers because they have to be more agile. But when it
Yeah.
comes to distance, a referee covers more ground. It's to make a better decision. It's better to always be closer to the point of contact for the football for the each of the games or each gameplay. So to do that, you need to be positioned closer to the ball. When the ball moves, you have to move. You
Mm.
have to run. You have to
Wow.
sprint with the players,
Wow.
and it's easier. It's easier to make the right judgment if you can see it. So if
Mm.
you're positioned in the middle of the pitch, you have a more subjective view of what actually transpired. And most of us we have experiences or games we watched where referee made a wrong call because of the position they were in, not because they don't know the right call, but the positioning gave them the wrong view of what actually happened. And it happens a lot in football. And these are
Yeah.
split second decisions.
Yeah. They're like like you can like relate them to the world of trading, right? Everything is happening in like seconds. And
Ex-
if you once you say this is my decision, it is. And if you try to roll it back, that brings in another nuance completely. But I guess we're gonna talk about that later on. Now, apart from this physical part, which we already discussed, right? If for me myself now, if I want to become a referee, using the context of where we are, I mean Germany, what are the other requirements? Where do I start? What do I need to do first? Yes, I'm fit. I can run around as much as I can. But what's the next thing? What do I need to do?
So the first step is to contact the BSA. I think in Hamburg, we're both in Hamburg. The BSA
Mm-hmm.
Hamburg, which is registered under BSA Nord as well, North of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find a local club. Reach out
So
to the club.
PSA is the Association of
BSA,
Referees.
I think BSA
BSA, that's the Association of Referees
are referees, yes.
for your states and the one. So you contacted
So
the one in Hamburg.
well, for me, I reached out to the head referee, chairman of the refereeing board in BSA
Okay.
Hamburg, who now
Mm-hmm.
gave me the guidance. Reach out to the
Yeah.
local club, give me a list of clubs around where I lived. Reach
Mm-hmm.
out to the clubs, express your interest in being their referee. So
Mm-hmm.
the process is each club has a number of referees registered under them, and then they are
Oh,
being
okay.
incentivized to have many referees. There's
Mm-hmm.
always that publication that there's not enough referees in Germany, so
In
they've
Germany.
encouraged in
Okay.
Germany because there are different levels of games, a lot of leagues that are not at the regional level, maybe at the state level, district level. There are a lot of tournaments, and they need
Mm-hmm.
referees.
Oh,
So
okay.
the clubs are encouraged, irrespective of their status or the league they play in, to have referees. So they get, my understanding could be is they get more sponsorship from either the state council or more if they have more referees. So it means they are contributing to the entire the league, you know. So if
Oh.
you reach out to them, you get to register with them. Once
Mm-hmm.
you've done that, they now register you for a training, which usually takes about between maybe 20 hours or 60 hours, depending on the period it is. If it's an intensive course, it could be a one weekend, 8 hour a day or 12, 8 hour a day training. I think I've had one that started at 9 and runs till 5 p.m. Then
Yeah,
after the
okay.
training, the classroom training, you get to do a test, testing on the topics that were discussed. Because most of them are, apart from the conventional study of the handbooks, there are
Mm-hmm.
scenario-based, they show previous games, mistakes made by referees, or confusing calls made by referees and explain why that was made. And so after that, you're tested on some of those scenario-based questions. If you pass, which most
Interesting.
likely you will, then you
Okay.
get you get your certificate as a referee, get registered, and you're able to be at games at that point you cannot be assigned to games. So that's
Okay.
maybe up to the point of becoming a referee. Then we can discuss what happens after.
Yeah, yeah, I
If
mean,
they have
we're gonna discuss that. I just want us to like talk more about these requirements, right? So, I mean, if I understand you correctly, the first thing is to look for a local club and express your interest with them to say, oh, I, Oyewale, I want to be a referee for your club, right? And then they are going to register you in the appropriate association, and then you need to
training.
go through the training and pass the training, which you said.
Yes,
I don't know how easy it is, but considering the non-German evaluation metrics, but I'm just going to take your word that you should pass, right?
yes,
Then after
if you should pass.
then okay, after that, then you get your a referee certificate. So which means you can now refer again. Now going through that training, my first question is, as a foreigner, how much of German do you need in terms of the language
Or
proficiency?
okay, it's all German. Now, if we also become understand that most of the most of the participants, key
Mm-hmm.
players in the referee association are closer to the community, and then they preferred language of communication is German.
Mm-hmm.
There is accommodation for people who don't understand, but at least you need to be able to understand the training sessions in context. There would always be provision to explain further. Maybe one of the coordinators, and for the two trainings I attended, there was always
Mm-hmm.
one or two coordinators who explained things in English if you were confused. And if you mention that to them before the training, they will get someone who speaks English to sit close to you.
Oh,
So,
that's nice.
so
Because for
that
me, I also like try to think about it. Even if I'm able to do my training and get the certificate in English, most of the games you are going to be referring, you're probably going to be like 90 something percent Germans. I mean, that's just my own statistics. So you still need to speak the language level.
yes, yes, and not necessary. As
Okay.
refereeing, a, refereeing accommodates for or maybe decision makers as well, referee umpires who are not who are maybe someone who cannot vocally communicate to the players can also control a game. It's all about signaling and the whistle strength. Knowing the right
Mm,
signal and the whistle strength. So what the players understand the hand signal, and if your
mm-hmm,
posture and hand signal is decisive enough, the players will
mm.
respond to it. So in most
Oh, okay.
cases, you don't necessarily need to speak to the players, except for when you begin to referee more advanced level of games, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
the standard Bundesliga, where if there's a VAR call, you need to be able to speak to the audience and explain why that decision was made, right?
Oh,
But
okay.
I imagine that to be able to get started, you don't need necessarily, it's not a limitation not being able to communicate fluently in German.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to know. And yeah, so that settles your first steps, right, on getting certified as a coach. I don't know if you for referee, I don't know if we also call it license like the coaches, but where I'm actually going now is so at that particular point in time, from what I understand about the German football system, right? At the peak, you have the Bundesliga one, which is the biggest one, and it's also professional. And at the lowest, depending on your district, you can have Class A, Class A B, or Liga. Now, my question is, do you have is it this? I mean, let me put it this way: what does it take? What's like your first entry as a referee? Is it that once you are done with that certification, you can now like officiate a Bundesliga game, or maybe it's like a League 5 game? At what's your entry point after getting the certification as a referee in the hierarchy of games?
Okay, so the after getting the license, the first few games is always recommended to be a home game to the club that
Oh,
you are
okay.
registered with. That way, you have a body, more like a body system, where someone gets to be able to sit with you or stand with you, guide you through
Wait,
the
sorry,
match
sorry,
preparation.
sorry. Let me interrupt you a bit. You said the first set of games should be the game of the football club you are registered to,
Yes,
but that
yeah,
will
and
introduce a bias, right?
that's also what I thought earlier about the
Okay.
first. Yeah, the first part of the training of a referee is to also understand that, irrespective of, um, ideally, I expected as well that I should not be able to officiate the game of the club I'm registered to, but I
Mm-hmm.
am not registered to that club as a manager or a player, or maybe my affiliation to that club is I am a referee representing them. Yes,
Ah, okay.
if it helps, I've been able to officiate 3 games of the club I'm registered to, and they lost all of them. So it's the so
I,
so
I mean, I mean, the Nigerian in me, that's the first thing that jumps out. Like, okay, wait, that's a bias. If I'm yeah, okay, but yeah, but thanks for clarifying that, and I think that
yeah.
that also makes sense. So
So
then, yeah, you can go ahead, you can continue with the
So the
the
first
hierarchy.
game, it's advised to be a home game, also a junior game. My first game was on the 12th, on the 14th. So that way you're able to
Mm-hmm.
officiate half pitch,
Yeah,
less
okay.
running, and also you don't need a linesman because there's no offside in a half pitch. So
Mm-hmm.
the rules of the game a bit more relaxed. The warnings and punishments are also a bit more relaxed for those games. Just allows you to ease into your confidence, because it really takes confidence to make decisions um, at that stage. So you need a body system to teach you that, give you some of the pointers that help refrain that you probably wouldn't have known. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the first lesson I learned is, when you're officiating an under 12, under 14 game, it's more
Mm-hmm.
about controlling the parents than controlling the players.
Oh.
So the players, surprisingly, are professionally I was impressed at their level of professional maturity
The
when I
footballers
refereed them.
themselves.
Yes, for the players themselves. But then most of them fall under the influence of what the parents want them to do at that age, what the expectation of the parents. So you need to be able to firmly control the parents' influence to the game. But you can always get their coaches to help with that. Yeah. So those are the little things you need to, those are the things that the body system helps you to understand. The dynamics, what actually controls the decision, the right way to run across a football pitch, where to focus, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't really see the 22 players' movement at the same time. So you need to know where to be, what to do, what to focus on for each. So,
Uh,
and then after that, as your confidence grows, then you're able to officiate more senior games, more frequent games, and then, yeah, depending on your availability, but you cannot choose your games. That's
okay. So now just to rephrase what you said again, after you get certified, it's advisable that your first few games, they are home games, and during these games too, you also have people from the association that will come to basically support you, to give you feedback how you can improve as far as officiating the game is concerned. Yeah, I find that interesting. So now you mentioned a point last time that you don't select the game. What do you mean by that?
So they
Do they
each
just randomly assign a game to you or what?
Okay, so the communication systems are also, we have a lot of communication channels available to us
Oh,
now. So
okay.
first, the games are assigned to clubs, and then
Mm-hmm.
each club has a head referee. So I think they call the person the upman, but the head referee.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
head referee reaches out to all referees registered in his club and checks first how the seniority of the game, the game status or level, who are the best people to officiate these games. Then
Mm-hmm.
he can now check the availability and go from top to bottom. Right. So the most experienced referees should be able to take the more high profile games, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
more senior high profile game. But if they're not available, the other ones it becomes an opportunity for the others to step in. But if you also express your interest in officiate taking up more challenges, then
Mm-hmm.
the head referee knows that you're available to take up more. But then the head referee assigns to the referee, decides which of the referees, based on their availability and experience, should officiate each game. You can you can decline an assignment, but you cannot choose an assignment.
Okay, so the clubs are the one involved in this process. So for each club, they have their own head of referee, and once there is a game available, once they have a game, then they throw it open to, or let me say they throw it open to their own group of referees,
Yes.
and based on the what do you call it, the availability, the expertise, the experience, then they assign it to one of them who can reject or accept it.
Yes.
Now,
Correct.
you mentioned something too, right? About so when it comes to this evaluation of the referees too, right? To know, okay, this particular referee is more fit for this game or not. Uh, how do how do you think they evaluate that? Is it based on the tenure, which is how long you've been a referee, or there is always a? I know from my football club, we do like send feedback concerning referees to the association sometimes. So is there like an exam you need to write for you to be able to officiate some games, or is just like you need to accumulate the competence, which is a function of how long you've been a referee. And the point is, I'm trying to understand how fast can a referee progress uh, along the league hierarchy.
I think it's more around the number of games and your availability.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also believe that the more games you officiate, your confidence, because it's more about confidence in decision making. Then you also get used to some of the rules and maybe the do's and don'ts on the sport doors. So
Mm-hmm.
availability in the number of games, which could also be a product of how long you've been a referee. So
Yeah.
how many trainings? Because referees have refresher courses for every rule that changes in the game. There's a training set up for referees. So
Wow.
it's not compulsory, but there's a mandatory number of trainings you need to attend for every year to renew your license. So the number of
Not not the number of games.
so there is a number of games and a number of training, a combination for each season
Okay.
to maintain your license. So I think it should be I think it's 4-1. Four games, one training is the minimum. But then the
Mm-hmm.
more games you have, the more training you have, you're also exposed to a wider network of decision makers within the refereeing body.
Mm-hmm.
It's more also, I think also there's a social element to that where if they know you're available, you're interested, you're always there, there's also that subtle confidence that the person knows more. So it plays a part on
Oh.
how many games you can officiate or the confidence to assign high profile games to you as well. There's also the high profile games, that means who attends the games. If
Mm-hmm.
if higher rank, maybe officials in the BSA, the association, have to attend the games you officiate, they have more first hand experience of your ability to make decisions in the game. and your knowledge of the game. That would also determine how fast you grow. So it's those all components playing together at the same time.
Oh, that's good to know. And I mean, it's also interesting because just for the football, I mean, the same thing for coaches for football. I mean, we are in the season break now, and we already have like a what's it called? It's like a document outlining the new rules before the season starts. But if I can summarize the certification process now. So you're saying after that initial training, which gets you certified, you don't need to do any examination again, or let me say, you don't need to do any certification again to say, okay, this is now the level where I am now. All you need to do is just to keep doing trainings yearly, take more games, and like, of course, deliver very well with those games, improve your network, and you just keep going, climbing a ladder that way, right?
I,
Is that?
but I'm not. I don't have information on this, but I believe there would also be some professional certifications before you step into more of the televised games.
Okay.
But I don't. I'm not privileged to this information yet. But the impression I have is just the more games, the more experience you have, the more knowledge of the game you have,
Mm-hmm.
exposes you to give presents the opportunity to officiate more high profile games, and the, those all play a part to how fast you can also grow. But I believe this is also an expectation. I think there should be a professional certification before you step into a Bundesliga game.
Yeah. Okay. So they can just like pick you from that. Okay. Oh.
There is an outside chance that
Mm-hmm.
you can officiate a Bundesliga game because, if memory serves me, it has happened with either Haisfa or St. Pauli,
Mm-hmm.
where there is always a stand for referees in every stadium
Yeah,
when
okay,
you're
no,
allowed.
just hold that thought. I think we are still gonna talk about that. Just to like continue along the path of the game itself, from the referee perspective. Now we know what's a referee needs. We know what needs to be done to become a referee, and I just want us to run through the game itself. So you mentioned something earlier that one of the feedback that you get from the association, people that are observing you, is basically, oh, for this under 12 game, right? You actually need to know or be do better when it comes to managing the parents compared to managing the kids themselves. Now, my question is, what's the procedure like for at least the games you've officiated, right? In terms of what needs to be done before the game, what the focus is during the game, and if there is anything to also do post game. What are the activities? What are the responsibility of a referee for these three phases?
Yes. Okay. Thanks. For the before the game, it's always advised to you have to arrive earlier, 30, 50 minutes at least before the game. That allows you to take a little walk through the pitch itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone's responsibility to set up the pitch. It's a responsibility of another staff, but you
Mm-hmm.
need to walk through the pitch at least to check for maybe harmful objects, because these are for the games of year, these are teenagers
Mm-hmm.
playing, so their safety is also priority in games like that. You need to walk around, check for harmful objects, and the standard, you also need to check that the pitch is conducive for a football game. It shouldn't be too wet. The weather should also be too harsh for the
Mm-hmm.
players before you start the game. So these are for this pitch. Then you need to know before each game, the clubs release the list of the players who are supposed to play and what substitutes they have. You need
Mm-hmm.
to interact with the coaches to know if they want to make a change before the game starts. So maybe from the lineup, they need to switch some players before the game starts. So you need to take list of that and then record that. There's always maybe like a card you see referees pull out aside
Mm-hmm.
the yellow and the red card. They used to take note. So every activity that happens in a game is recorded on that card.
Yeah.
Substitute,
Okay.
maybe yellow card, goal, the time, everything. You have to record them before, and then so that's for before the game. And then once you've checked for all those things, you do the social control part of it. For me, I learned from more experienced referees to try to use the coaches as much as possible to control the parents.
Yeah, okay.
So, and it's from my experience with that as well is at that age of football, there's a special bond between those coaches and their players. They respect their coaches much more than anyone else on that pitch. And the parents
Mm-hmm.
also respect the coaches because it's more about formation for those players than training to be a soccer player. So there's that
Mm-hmm.
bond. I think I've observed that bond between those 11, 12 players on the pitch and their coach. So you try to use the coaches to control the rest of the events happening outside the pitch, provided they know the rules of what you control within the pitch and you ensure that the coaches do not violate that and the players don't violate that, you use them to control what happens outside the pitch. That's what I've used so far. And then knowing my limitation with the language, I
Mm-hmm.
just try to establish that connection. Then try to also talk to one or two parents, maybe a greeting, a handshake, establish a sort of a bond. It increases the chance of them respecting your cause and not
Mm-hmm.
interfering with your game. So
Oh.
it just establish that greeting eye contact. Something else I do is when the players want to start, I try to establish eye contact with every player walking into my pitch. It helps me to identify them. These are a lot of players running around. Don't know them before then. You need to be able to recognize them when they take a foul before you can identify the number they wear at the back of their shirt. So I feel once that social connection has been established, it's easier to control. It's easier to control the rest of the game.
Oh,
Then
great.
during the game, you're the referee, and yeah, it's the less understanding for the games. Most of the games I've officiated are under 14 all through. The understanding that no player steps into that pitch with the intention to hurt another player. It's they are not that they are not at that level yet. So you also follow them with that same. When you make a decision, you try to explain why you make that decision. If a decision that affects them, you don't want to also discourage them. This is a nurturing phase for them. So
Yeah.
it's then the rest is just the rules of the game. If you make a
Mm.
mistake, acknowledge the mistake but move on. Because if you do not move on, you make follow up wrong calls.
Sticks.
Acknowledge the mistake, but not acknowledge the players, of course. But you cannot acknowledge the players. Acknowledge that maybe this was a slip of judgment, but then you have to move on immediately. And after the game, yeah, I try to always at least because I've seen most of the players for the 3 games. I try to always acknowledge the players that give them a handshake if they performed well. If they
Mm-hmm.
were too emotional, try to explain to their coach, give a bit of a quick feedback, and then you move on and wait for
Yeah,
the next game.
that's interesting. And then all the notes that you took during the game, you just send it to the association, or what do you do with it?
There's a form online for every game, so you need to
Ah,
report
okay.
each game. I think before 6 p.m. or before 6 p.m. of the same day. If you don't do that, then the club gets a fine. So you need to keep the card. If most times I just send a snapshot of it to the head referee, but then I have to record everything. The time of each yellow card, the time of each substitution, who was substituted, who scored the goals, what time they scored, what type of goal they scored. And
Wow.
then if it's a penalty kick, I think it's mostly a penalty kick or just a normal goal. And if it's also a yellow card, you need to show if it's just a foul or a handball. I believe this builds up to some bit of a statistics for those players in the future. But
Yeah.
then if there are complaints, there is also room to file a complaint. Of course,
Mm.
um, I think coaches get yellow cards as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
if you also give a yellow card to a coach, you also have to record that as well
Yeah, okay,
because
yeah. And you record all of this data, right? And still
yes,
send it to the association.
you
That's
have
a
to
lot
send
of
the message the same day.
data gathering work. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, thanks for going into details about that. And so one last question for me on this is, so for most of your games, right, you focus basically on children that are still at their formative age 12, let's just say less than 15 years or less than 14 years. And what I know about watching training session of under six, under eight, under 10, it's there are rules. The rules for their own games are actually not exactly the same as for adults. So my question then is, first, during the training, do they train you? Do you choose specifically that I want to focus on the youths, or let me say on the children? So that affects the type of or the type of content that your training, the structure of your training, or you are trained on every possible level of officiating, then you get to choose regardless, or you get to officiate any of the games that you are interested in.
Yeah, you get trained on all the aspects of the game. So whether it's the young UK or maybe the female leagues,
Mm-hmm.
the time, because there are variations, there are different rules to that. The time of the
Oh, okay.
game, the time of the halftime, the raising, what things that could also constitute a red card, a direct. So these are the slight variations to that. But you learn
Mm.
all that during the training. But for each game I get assigned to, I have to do a bit of a YouTube or read up before the game to just to ensure that I stay within the decision parameters of that particular game. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah,
interesting.
it's slightly different.
Okay, yeah, okay, it's fine. And thanks for that. Now I'm going to like dial it back a bit, right? And my focus is basically, yes, I mean, because I get asked a lot of this question a lot. Oh, why do you just jump out in the evening, sometimes early in the morning because of games, and you have to do all of these things? What's in it for you? You understand? And so that would take me to what are the apart from the intrinsic ones, which is like, okay, I love football, I just love football, and I can do almost anything for football. What are the costs? So, for instance, you mentioned being joining a club. From the club, you get registered, you go for this training, and you get your certificate if you pass it. So, the first question along that line is: are all of those things, are they free? And if they are not free, what's the cost implication like? Then the second part is, okay, I'm a certified referee. I go for games, I get selected for games, I officiate games. What are the benefits? What do I have to gain?
Okay. So first, there's being registered as a referee in Germany does
Mm-hmm.
not come with a cost. The clubs are happy to have you. That's the first
Wow.
thing. They're happy
Wow.
to have you. So they will fund your training, and when you get certified, they send you a kit that includes a referee kit, jersey, hose, and then a pouch that has the cards and the mark, everything. So they send you a kit, the cards and
Oh,
whistles and everything. They come as so you don't have to spend money on that, except you want specialized ones. Maybe you want some fancy whistle and all
yeah,
those things.
that's on you.
Then that's on
That's
you. But then the wrist, you need to get at least a sports wristwatch band and a like a field boot. I wouldn't say a football boot, but a field boot that allows you to run with traction as well. Those ones are your personal items. So the club funds all that and the training,
Mhm.
and then for each game you officiate, there is a standard compensation for each game. For the games I've
Okay.
officiated, I think it's around 22 euros. So you just get handed over 22 euro immediately after the game. And
Thanks for
then,
coming.
yeah, thanks for coming. Which, yeah, it's good. It's good to both exercise and then walk home with some 22 euro. But that's primarily for me, it's not at this moment, I've not considered the financial compensation as a value add for me.
Hmm.
Um, I've always wanted to do something that does not require a computer. And you can tell our lives revolve for analysts. Most of us working in the informatics space, we
Hmm.
live in our computer. So
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do something that does not require a computer. And then refereeing is one. It's just it. And from the moment I blow the first whistle to the
Mm.
time I end the game, I don't notice anything else happening outside that field.
Wow. So
So for a
full
moment,
concentration.
I'm fully concentrated in that football pitch. And I come out of it feeling good that, good to stay away from the distractions. I have friends, and my wife always joins me to the games. Maybe this, I notice her presence during the halftime. So
Yeah, you get
it's that
engrossed with the game.
full focus of the game, full focus for a few minutes, and then being able to do something that does not revolve around the device. Yeah, it's yeah. Then maybe I also see that long run. There's also, there's no age limit to becoming a professional referee. If you're fit, interested, and can still make rational decisions, who knows? Maybe 15 years or 10, 15 years, I'm officiating the Bundesliga
Okay. Let's see. Just keep pushing. I guess every time I'm calling you, or probably we'll meet up, so I'm just asking you, are you still pushing? I hope you're still pushing. Yeah, because definitely it's the most important thing. First thing, like, yes, it's possible, right? Then you just need to like chronicle. Let me think about the journey, put in the work, and we see how that goes. So fingers crossed. We see. Hopefully, we see you on the screen one day, because that's when a lot of people thinks that's where a lot of people thinks football starts.
Yeah. Okay. So
They
I
just
just
know
had
that
to.
there is a
So
lot of yeah, go ahead.
I had to research quickly to just get maybe add some content to that. I think
Mm-hmm.
once you start officiating the regional games, the compensation begins to go up geometrically. Yeah. So I think League Three is €300 per games average, and then Bundesliga two you get 1,005 per game, and Bundesliga you get 3,800 per game. So maybe if those things, but I believe those takes more investment regarding time, experience, and also knowledge of the rules of the game to be able to get to that level. But yeah,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. I think it's. I mean, just for like footballers too, right? At that level, at the local level, they don't get paid. Then at some point you get stipends. Then at some point you get contracts. Then at some point you get fat contracts. So
Yeah,
I want to believe it's the same thing. And like you said, the requirement is going to be much more different. So in terms of expectation, in terms of work you need to put in. So, for instance, now if I'm a a Bundesliga referee, so that basically means at any point in time, I might be traveling. It's possible that I'll be traveling across Germany every weekend, and that's a lot. That's
but
a lot.
then
But
you're also compensated for your travel cost.
yeah, you get compensated, but the first thing is to be available and be interested in doing that. You understand? But I believe before you get to that level, or when before you get to that level, you already know about these things, and you basically just say, okay, yes, I'm not available, I'm available, and everything just go as far as the system allows. So my next question will be, yeah, you mentioned earlier that you enjoy the fact that you are not doing anything with computer while you are on the pitch. And now with the infusion of AI, in the infusion of computer into the football now, I mean at the moment, professional referees are already wearing sensor readers, already wearing different communication gadgets, and I'm hearing that from next season they will also be wearing what they call it, live cameras or something, so that their view when an event is taking place, it can also be captured to a larger extent. Now, my question to you is, what's your opinion about all of this?
Okay, so first to create a distinction between relying, stepping away from the computer and relying on computer support or digital support for decision making. They are
Mm-hmm.
not exactly the same. So
Okay.
being able to be an on-field referee allows, gives me that, like I mentioned, I enjoy being able to make decisions soaking in all the variables or activities happening, information that's available to me, whether it's from my
Mm-hmm.
linesman, my observation, the tracking, and in more high profile games, VAR, the trackers, the beepers. Those things are information sources to the central referee who have to make and is responsible for the decision. So irrespective of what information that flows in. So those information flowing in is essential to decision making in a high profile football game. Considering that aside the having to make on-field calls, now
Mm-hmm.
football has grown beyond the 22 players playing in the middle of the pitch. There are stakeholders, which include the fans, the sponsors, the other team members. There are emotions that has to be justified,
Yeah.
not that they don't nudge decision making, but you need to be able to justify the reason those decisions were made. So information access allows makes it easier to prove why a referee made a decision.
No,
That's like what
that's
was introduced, I think, in Bundesliga, in La Liga, and some Champions League games is when a VAR makes a decision, the referee has to verbally tell uh,
audience.
announce in the stadium why he made that decision. He could as well have made that decision without explaining, but then you
Mm-hmm.
kind of get them involved in the game and justify the reason why the decision was made. So I believe there's need to have those decision support. Maybe referees will wear a lot more trackers, and more of those trackers, the functionalities are combined. As now, the first weird thing observed is the linesman's flag. It's not just a wave; it beeps the referee's arm. So he
Mm-hmm.
has a track on each arm, so he knows who is beeping at each point for him to look. So there are other things they have to wear. So they wear a lot more gadgets on their body, and like you mentioned, introducing a camera now. But what I would like to see is the speed at which that information is transmitted to the referee to make a decision. As at the end, irrespective of the number of times a referee watches a VAR video, they still have to make the final decision themselves. So slowing down the game, if there's a way to make that decision process a bit faster, this is where technology can step in, or can improve to
Yeah.
pass that
Okay.
information as fast as possible. I think
Mm.
I've seen a game where, of course, the pundits will always have something to say, where the
Yeah.
referee was fed a video angle from only one side. So
Mm.
while watching the incident, the referee did not see the video, the recording from multiple, just had once, and he has to make decision based on what he can see, not what he doesn't have. So the speed of transmitting that and also providing the right information point. If the wrong information is given to a referee, chances are he will still make the wrong call. That's not the wrong call. He will have to make a call based on what information he has. So
Mhm.
I think there is room for improvement. But do I ever see artificial or digital systems replacing at least the three key referees? I would say that should not happen. That
Okay.
should.
Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed, in as much as it's also not going to be non-humans that will be the footballers. I think I also like on the same page with you with that. We should just bring in the technology to help to support this center referee and the lineman in making better and like you also said, like quick decisions. And hopefully you tech guys, hopefully you help us to make that better in coming days. I think it has been a wonderful conversation so far. So I only have like very few questions left, and the my next question will be more about I think for the coaches, and I'm asking this because you said most of your games so far has been in charge of uh, kids, largely in their formative years. So maybe during your training, or or maybe another additional training, um, I want to know: are there other non-football, in quotes, responsibility that has been tasked of you as a coach? Sorry, as a referee. And the reason why I'm saying this is because for coaches, I know, for instance, for coaches, you need to you need to have your first aid certification. So basically, that's because in case a player slump or whatever, you can offer first aid support on the pitch. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is, I know for coaches of kids, they are largely like for training, not for necessarily for games. You are like their parents to those kids. Why does this happening? And that's I think something that's also like legally binding. So which means if you have 6 or 10 kids, if you're taking 6 to 10 kids for games, you need to return 6 to 10 kids, the exact number of those kids back to their parents just as they are. And I think there's another component that was mentioned, which has to do with uh, you see the game, right? You can see everything that's happening on the pitch, but you also need to see the game from the perspective of uh, the post-game reaction, so that you don't find a situation whereby you just finish a game now and just outside the pitch, you find this same set of footballers like probably threatening one another or actually fighting off the pitch. So to bring about the game, my question is for referees, do you also have like non-football responsibility, or let me say obligation, uh, to I mean to the players?
Okay. So there's first thing, one from the point the game starts, you're
Hmm.
responsible. You're the first point of contact to protect to ensure the safety of the players. So,
Hmm.
but you're not primarily responsible. I'm not if primarily responsible for their safety. But if a player is kicked and falls, first question I usually ask is, do you need me to call the coach? Do you need me to call the coach, right? So if the player or some other player around that signals yes, I'll have to wait for pause the game and signal the coach to come inside. He understands them better, and until he makes that final confirmation that the player is okay, I cannot continue with the game. That is on my own part to ensure that we don't overlook. These are kids, like you mentioned. We don't
Hmm.
also overlook health concerns around them, and you do not have all that information from the point the game starts.
Yeah,
But
okay.
then there the safety to ensure no player is intentionally violent. Of course, we believe they are not intentionally, they would never be intentionally violent. But if they react, you try to get them to calm down. Or I think in times of caution, you can also send them out for 5 minutes for them to be calm and bring them back in. So they're not playing out of emotions. Because those are the things that could easily lead to one player hurting the other. Then one of the videos I also watched as part of the training was to ensure that to not this to ensure that you maintain the kids their interest and the love for the game. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
make a decision that discourages them from playing again, right? So when you feel you make a decision they reacted negatively to, why that should not affect how you follow up with that decision, but I try to explain, at least signal why that decision was made. Cite an example of I remember one of my first game. Um,
Hmm.
I awarded a free kick that led to a goal, and the player complained till the end of the game. After the game, he kept complaining. So
Wow.
he felt that he was pulled down, and then when he charged back, I saw the charging. I did not see the pulling. I did not
Hmm.
see the pulling, but I have to make decision on based on what I see, not what he said. But maybe
Hmm.
he's right. But some of those things it could also be an omission. I don't have linesmen. So
Hmm.
try to explain that to the coach also to tell this player, this is not personal. I made a decision was made based on what
What is
was
so?
observed. So it's that trying to also get them to not lose interest in the game at that formative stages, maintain their safety, try to control everything that ensures that they are safe during the game, and try to get them to understand every decision that you made, and also to hear them. I first one of the second game I learned to observe what we usually know with senior players. In every game there's a captain and there are leaders in the team.
Hmm.
Usually it's the captain is not always the leader in the game in the team, but it's to observe who can control the team. and then be able to communicate with those people as well. I remember one of the players, I think should be a 12-year-old boy, said the most mentally mature thing I heard in football. He
Wow.
came to me after the first few minutes. By the way, he has scored 2 goals already and asked me
Okay.
if I was new.
Wow.
I said yes. You know what he said?
Mm-hmm.
Relax, no pressure. And that
Wow.
was, and
A 12-year-old kid.
as much as that could even, if I played them along the lines of my ego, but it was a beautiful thing to hear from a 12-year-old footballer. He showed maturity, and you could see for a player to communicate at that level shows you he can be able to control how his team reacts to the game. A whistle is blown maybe against or for. You see someone telling them vital, things like play on. They don't need, so these are things cues you observe and reach out to learn to be able to connect and control those games. Those are not rule books. They are not in the rule books, but
Mm-hmm.
the idea is also to have the best control over a game, not who scores the most goals. Of course, that's not the referee does not really get involved on how well a player plays, or so those are the responsibilities that are non-football specifics. But when it comes to health, just to talk about a little, is I think
Mm-hmm.
it would also help if referees are officiating grassroots games because of unavailability of standard first aid support like the professional game, to have no 18 or 2 about first aid. At least you're able to know, even if you don't administer, you're able to make that first call. If a player gets kicked, you're able to know if this particular place they were kicked, how they fell could have any impact, and be able to react or act along those lines. But they are not primarily a referee's responsibility.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark. And I think I've asked almost every possible question I can draft out right now about refereeing journey, basically. And thanks for uh, providing justifiable answers to all of them. So just the last question, right? So when it comes to officiating a game, if you could add, remove, or change anything, what would that be? Or let me put it this way, in another way, what are the changes you are looking forward to? Yeah, when it comes to officiating again.
So I would say more like a referee for the referees. I will explain that in a different way.
A referee for the referees.
No, not
Okay,
not really on game. So a referee at the
okay.
end of the game, you provide feedback, a report on everything that happens in the game. But there should also be a mechanism where the referee should receive some feedback. Of course, controlled feedback, because most of the feedback a referee gets on pitch is complaint, and you learn earlier, listen but don't respond. Because
Hmm.
you listen, don't respond. But there could also be a system where more people who understand the rules of officiating a game can actually provide a feedback. I remember the head referee telling me the first game is I should blow your whistle in an authoritative way. When you blow your whistle, your posture determines how well players respond. If you stand in a non-confident way and signal, they have more chances of challenging your decision. But if you have that very firm decision call, so some of those feedback, I could get it because he was there. But if
Yeah.
there are ways to give that feedback to referees for each game, it would also help them to improve. Aside the standard trainings and the likes, generally human beings improve by doing. You
Yeah.
get something done, collect feedback, integrate feedback, try again. So that's kind of a feedback system for referees. And
So,
then
but,
the second
but
part, which could more like a controlled feedback system for the referees
so
now.
sorry. Before you go to second point, but this feedback, this first part you're talking about now, is from other referees, or let me say more experienced referees, not from like the coaches, because trust
No,
me, from the
no,
coaches, you're just going to get
a lot of
complaints.
things with the
That's
noise, yeah, complaints and noise, yeah. So it's more people who understand the rules of officiating a game to
yeah.
provide
Okay.
feedback. Because yeah, so that's what the feedback for the referees. And then the second part is for footballers, it's you can learn by watching, admiring a professional footballer. Model your game around how a number of footballers play, like Rashford learning to take free kicks like C. Ronaldo and the likes. There
Hmm.
could also be an opportunity for referees to learn from referees. Yeah. Where these days, when from after my trend, I started watching football differently. I
Differently, you
now watch
see.
the referee, not the game. Yeah.
Interesting.
You begin to quickly learn that referees don't run round the entire pitch. They run in a particular way. So they don't, that way they maintain visual control of the pitch, allow the linesmen to cover their blind spot, and don't exhaust their energy. So these are
Mm,
things you observe from watching some of the games. But the maybe this is where technology also steps in again. The referees already have trackers. I remember having a conversation with a mutual friend, Namdi, around
mm,
what if the referee's movement on a pitch could be tracked and matched against the decisions they made? So,
mm.
where for all the penalty calls, where was the referee standing at the point the call was made? With that, with the positioning of the referee, improve the ability to make the right call. So those kind of things are also things that I think that could be added and it provided some improvement to officiating the game itself. Maybe not the game itself.
Yeah, those are wonderful, wonderful suggestions. That especially when it comes to like getting professional feedback. Like, okay, yeah, you did this well, you did this like okay, but you can do this, you can do this. Don't do this again. Don't do this again. I think that will really help because, like I said earlier too, right? The I don't want to say the best, but if you're looking forward to for feedback from coaches, from players, trust me, it's gonna be like 90% complaint. And I'm saying this from both perspectives as a player and also as a coach because you get emotional during the game, and after the game you see the referee and you're like, nah, that referee, that guy is not it. So you probably won't get more constructive feedback from those other stakeholders. Yeah, it's been a wonderful conversation with you talking about this interesting topic, and I really appreciate you creating time for this. So that'll be like my last question on this episode. Hopefully, if I ask for your audience in the next future, you also like find the time to come and share with us on the show again. And of course, like for referee, it's a never uh ending topic. Let me put it that way because there are always new rules, new strategy coming up every now and then. So hopefully, if you have any of this information or let me say any of this topic that want more clarity about, might also ask you to come help us with that again. Once again, thanks for joining, and to my viewers, until the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.